So everybody's been getting excited. It's been news going that the Philippines is reopening to tourists. But let's examine this just a little bit. I'm going to play a press conference video, and let's kind of dissect this video as we go through it so we can kind of keep things clear and everybody's thinking all on the right track on this. So is the Philippines open yet, or is it not open yet to tourists? Green list, yellow list. Let's see what they have to say. Let's break it down and look for those little caveats of information that you're so excited listening that you might miss those little details. You know what I'm saying? So let's check it out.
Magandang tanghali po sa ating mga kababayan at sa mga miyembro ng Malacanang Press Corps. Now please allow me to begin today's briefing with several important matters involving the two latest resolutions of the IATF. First, we would like to clarify some matters with regard to the use of face shields. As we announced last Tuesday, the use of face shields is now voluntary in areas under alert levels 1, 2, and 3. So hindi na po required ito sa lugar nyo kung alert level 3 or mas mababa. However, in IATF Resolution number 149, we clarified that the voluntary use of face shields for areas under alert levels 1 to 3 is, and I quote, without prejudice to employers still requiring their use for their employees or workers and or customers in their respective premises. End of quote.
So let's break that one down right from the start. No, it's not about travel, it's about face shields, but come on, you know, we're all tired of face shields in the Philippines. Our last trip, it seemed like I had face shields in the back seat, face shields on the dash, face shields laying around for the children when they ride with us. It was just everywhere. Broken face shields, scratched up, bent up face shields. And the biggest thing they were was like a visor on top of your head. Yeah, I mean, people were wearing them backwards and the shield sticking up in the back. And I mean, they truly were not being properly utilized anyway. You go in the mall, security tell you had to have it. As soon as you got inside, everyone, even the employees in the stores, were not wearing them like that. And we even seen security guards, you know, they're wearing them on top of their head too once you got inside the malls and stores. You know, it's probably time to relieve of that. But now what they're saying is that, you know, private businesses and employers can still require their employees to and their customers to wear them. So, you know, you might go on a Kenny Rogers chicken, you know, roasted chicken or whatever, or a McDonald's, and they may say, hey, you got to have a face shield. I'm not saying that that's their rules when I name those companies. I'm just using for instances. They may not have that rule at all. But you'll have to respect that you may still need to carry a face shield around with you, once again, stuffed away in a bag or something. And you may be asking certain businesses to put it on. Might be your choice then to not do business with that business if that's what they're forcing you to do and you don't want to, because that is still going to be your right. So, you know, maybe if this drugstore over here don't require it and this one does, maybe you want to go to the one that doesn't. Maybe you want to go to the one that does because you feel it's needed. But at least you're going to have a choice now. That's the beautiful part. Let's continue.
Kaya pwede pong i-require ng mga employers ang mga empleyado nila mag-face shield sa kanilang workplaces. At pwede din pong i-require ng private establishments ang mga customers nila na mag-face shield. That is within their discretion po. Upon the recommendation of the Department of Foreign Affairs, we shall now accept and recognize the national COVID-19 vaccination certificates of Austria, Kazakhstan, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates for purposes of arrival quarantine protocols as well as for interzonal and intrazonal movement. In light of this and similar announcements, the IATF reiterates that the Bureau of Quarantine, the Department of Transportation One-Stop Shop, and the Bureau of Immigration have been directed to recognize only the proofs of vaccination that have been approved by the IATF.
So let's talk about these 4 countries right here. They have now had their national COVID-19 vaccination certificate recognized with the Philippine government, Austria, Kazakhstan, Singapore, United Arab Emirates. So they will accept and recognize, for purposes of arrival quarantine protocols, those countries' certificates. I don't know if that's going to be digital or on paper, but whatever it is, they're going to recognize those 4 countries now. I know they talked about in the past countries that did a reciprocity agreement with them, so maybe that's what happened here. But this is a very good topic right here. All right, and this is the very important part here, because this is going to deal with most other nations. So it says right here that the technical working group are ratified, the specifics of which are as follows. And it says the Bureau of Quarantine, the Department of Transportation, One Stop Shop, and the Bureau of Immigration. So all of those departments right there are directed to recognize only the proofs of vaccination thus approved by the IATF. So that's going to be those 4 countries we just looked at before, and that's going to be like the yellow card that I showed you guys in a past video from the World Health Organization. You can order those from the World Health Organization, but I believe they come in like a 20 pack. The CDC has a link for them. I don't know if that link's still working or not. And you can find them being sold out there on other outlets. I believe what some of them are doing is buying those 20 packs, breaking the pack apart, and selling them individually online to people. Order them in. Ours, we ordered it in, we got it, we took it with us for our vaccine, and they were more than happy to fill it all out for us. So we not only have the CDC, but we have that yellow WHO card. Now, as we know, we've heard out there that some immigration officers would accept the CDC card from a ballot buy-in, a foreigner, with a spouse coming in, or from a returning Filipina, and some would not. And who wants to play that gamble? Who wants to gamble all that travel and effort and expense and all to get there and have a big question mark? Are they going to let me in or not? And your heart's pounding, you're fixing to get turned around on a plane, go back. It's going to be a disaster, financially, emotionally, everything. So why risk it? That's why we didn't. We went ahead of time and ordered in the WHO card, because that is recognized. That yellow card, it's a little booklet, is recognized by the IATF. And we want to do our due diligence. We don't want to gamble that somebody made it through. We're not going to like play poker or rolling dice as to whether we're going to get in or not. Let's just be sure about it. So like right now, they're not recognizing the CDC. The little cards here in the US that you're given on the CDC, they were recognizing that a Filipina could come in, a returning Filipino could come in with that CDC card, but the foreign national like myself, you might be right there, your wife, and they tell you, I won't accept yours because you don't have a reciprocity agreement with the Philippine government. But the Filipina is a Filipina, or the Filipino is Filipino. They're a citizen here. They're a returning Filipino back to the country. So yeah, we're going to accept theirs. And there was a little prejudice taking place right there. I don't want to risk all of that. And then now, if it says for them to recognize only proofs of vaccination thus approved by ATF, they may even now tell the Filipino or Filipino the CDC card's not going to cut it. So you're going to have to do some work on your own and get one of those cards. Don't falsify. Listen, if any of you do dumb stuff out there, like get a card and on your own try to fill it out and put information in there, because you don't want to go back to your doctor, you don't want to go back to where you got your vaccine and ask them to please fill this out with their real signatures. You're frauding the government. You're frauding all of us, Because if you get caught up with on that, it makes it hard on everyone that's trying to do it right. So please, don't be selfish and try to falsify a card just so you can get in, and then you get caught and you damage it for everybody else that's trying to do things the right way and play by the rules. Really asking you that. You know, there's people out there. And, you know, one bad apple spoils the bunch. All right, so let's continue on here.
To complement our DOT's efforts to promote Philippine tourism for fully vaccinated individuals coming from green list countries, territories, and jurisdictions, tourists shall be allowed entry in the country subject to the guidelines as may be finalized and approved by the IATF.
Let's stop. There's that golden ticket everybody's been waiting to get, you know, that green light. You know, this is a green list, but there's the green light that everybody's been waiting for. But now, let's take some little caveats of information out of this and break it down. So it says, in support of the thrust of the Department of Tourism to boost Philippine tourism, fully vaccinated individuals from green list countries, territories, and jurisdictions shall be allowed entry into the country. But now, right there, it says shall be allowed, but it didn't say that it's already allowed, okay? This is the Department of Tourism. This isn't the IATF. And in the other departments, this is the Department of Tourism wanting to boost Philippine tourism for fully vaccinated individuals coming from green list countries, the United States, most of your European nations, Australia. We're not on the green list, but let's just say that you're from a green list. It says shall be allowed entry into the country. Now here's where they should have highlighted. Subject to the guidelines as may. It says does not say that is finalized. That says as may be finalized. Doesn't say that it is now finalized. It says as it may be. So this department, the Department of Tourism, has approved it, but not all departments have approved it, okay? He says that they will be announcing that. It's going to be at a later date. So that's where everybody needs to put their brakes on right there. Even if you're from a green list country, you still have to wait. There's not a date set. I know they talked about some November 22nd stuff, but that is not yet getting you in there. The date has not been announced. The finalization has not taken place. The approval by the IATF has not taken place. So put your credit card back up. Stop trying to book a ticket. And another important factor in this is nowhere does it say too that you're going to show up and you're going to get a tourist visa upon arrival. It doesn't say that you will, and it does not say that you will not. And I would bet that most likely, if you're coming as a tourist, these are going to be the things they're going to have to finalize and approve. Are you going to need to get a tourist visa if you're from a green list country in advance and wait for that to come in and you have it already? Or is it going to be issued upon arrival? And this hasn't been clarified.
Basta mula sa green list. And speaking of guidelines, the following interim testing and quarantine protocols of international arriving passengers were approved yesterday and will be implemented beginning November 22, 2021.
Now, right there, you see that is what's coming out on November 22nd, is the new guidelines on what the quarantine protocol is once you get into the country. That November 22nd date isn't when tourists can pour in, okay? That November 22nd date is when these new quarantine and vaccine protocols take place. I think there was a little confusion right there. Everybody was so excited they were blurring the lines and blending this all together. So let's look at this a little bit more here.
For fully vaccinated Filipinos coming from green list countries who have not taken an RT-PCR test 72 hours prior to their departure, they must undergo facility-based quarantine with on-arrival RT-PCR testing until the release of their negative results. After this, the individual is enjoined to self-monitor until the 14th day of their arrival, with the date of arrival being the first day.
If you come in without, if you're from a green list country and you're fully vaccinated and you're a Filipino and you come in the country without taking a test within 72 hours before you boarded your flight, you're going to have to get a negative result test, and you're going to have to wait at a quarantine facility or hotel until you get those negative results back. After which, then you can go on out and self-monitor, for 14 days, starting from the day of your arrival. And I'll go ahead and read on what he hasn't yet. And with a negative test taken within 72 hours prior to departure, you have to do no quarantine and no testing upon arrival. So either which way, you're going to be taking it up the nose. Either which way, you're going to be taking it up the nose. So it's better to take it up the nose before you board your plane so that you can just get there, show your negative results, and go on about your happy way and self-monitor for 14 days with no quarantine facility quarantine having to be done. That's the best thing. But if you wait and you get tested when you get in the Philippines, you're going to have to go to a facility, whether it's even just for one day, and wait those results. And then you can go on your way. So either way, you're going to be taking the test, either prior to boarding the plane or after you land there. And the better choice is before you get on the plane. Absolutely. Because also, what if you get there and you're negative? You're positive, and then you got a nightmare. But if you take it before you board from your country that you're departing from, then oh no, I need to go back home, and I need to get this flight canceled or changed or something. So definitely the best choice is before you ever get on that plane. Get that test within 72 hours prior. Let's continue.
If a fully vaccinated Filipino has taken a negative test within 72 hours prior to departure from a green list country, no facility-based quarantine and no on-arrival RT-PCR test will be required. Pumunta naman po tayo sa mga fully vaccinated foreigners coming from green list. A negative RT-PCR test shall be required to be taken within 72 hours prior to departure.
Now, you get the difference right there between a Filipino and a foreigner from a green list, fully vaccinated. The foreigner is required to take it before you depart. The Filipino is not required to take it. They can take it after they arrive, but they're going to have to stay at a quarantine facility till they get the results. But the foreigner from a green list country absolutely is required to take that test, if you're from the green list, 72 hours prior to departure. So, I would really suggest again, you and your asawa, your spouse, that you both just go ahead and get tested. Hey, if one of you's getting done at your originating country, you might as well both of you get done, right? So, right there, the foreigner must. The Filipino has a choice when they land, before or after, but the foreigner must take it before departure. And then it says that there will be no facility-based quarantine and no on arrival testing done. Nothing further needs to be done. You can just go on out. So there's the difference between that. Let's continue.
And upon arrival, no facility-based quarantine and no on-arrival RT-PCR test will be further required, but the passenger is enjoined to self-monitor for any symptoms until the 14th day. Again, with the first day being the date of arrival. Meanwhile, for unvaccinated, partially vaccinated, or individuals whose vaccination status cannot be independently validated, and those vaccinated but failed to comply with the above test before travel requirements, facility-based quarantine will be required until the release of their negative RT-PCR test taken on the 5th day.
So right there, if you're unvaccinated from a green list country and you arrive, you are going to have to take the test on the 5th day. So that means you need to book your hotel, your quarantine facility for 6 days. Because on the 5th day, they're going to test you, and most likely your results are going to come in on the 6th day. That's another thing you need to watch out for. And then if you come back negative, you will still self-monitor for up to the 14th day, the date starting from the time that you arrive. So let's move on right there.
After which they are enjoined to self-monitor until the 14th day of their arrival from a green list country. All passengers, whether Filipinos or foreigners, merely transiting through non-green list jurisdiction shall not be deemed as having come from or having been to the said country, territory, or jurisdiction if they stayed in the airport the whole time and were not cleared for entry by its immigration authorities.
I can use Japan for example. Melinda and I, we have traveled through, say, like Japan, and say that we got to change to a different terminal. It's actually kind of like listed as different part of airport. You got to take a bus to cross over to this other airport and to take your flight on down into the Philippines. So maybe you landed in Narita and now you got to go over to this other airport, and they would make you go through immigration, and even Melinda would have to go through all these. They would line up all these Filipinos and stuff, and my approval to be entered into Japan through immigration is real simple. From the United States, get a United States passport. But for the Filipinos, it was different. They had to get approval to say, okay, it's just a transiting flight, but they still put an immigration stamp in, and you've got to be really careful about that. I really suggest that if there's any way you can, try to get a direct flight to the Philippines if there's any way you can. And if you have to book through a transiting airport, make sure that you're staying inside the same airport. Not that you're going to land at this airport and then transit over on buses to another airport and they require you to go through immigration to do that. Be aware of that. Make sure that you are leaving from the same airport that you landed on for your transiting flight going to the Philippines. That's just a little piece of advice there.
Pumunta naman po tayo sa yellow list. For fully vaccinated individuals coming from yellow list countries, a negative RT-PCR test conducted within 72 hours prior to departure from the country will be required. Upon arrival, they shall undergo facility-based quarantine with a third day RT-PCR test, with the date of arrival considered the first day. Upon release of a negative RT-PCR test, they may be discharged from facility quarantine, after which they are enjoined to self-monitor up to the 14th day from day.
From the yellow list countries, you're going to take it up the nose twice. Face it. Even if you're fully vaccinated, you're getting it up the nose twice. You're going to have to take a test before you leave your country. Within 72 hours prior to departure from the origin will be required. So there's one test. And then upon arrival, you'll go through a 3-day quarantine. And on the 3rd day, they're going to take the test. So you need to book a room for 4 days, because you're probably going to get the results the following day. That's what they keep warning. It's 3 days before they come take the test, but you may not get your results to the 4th day, so you need to be booked there for the 4th day, okay? And so you need to be sure and be aware of that. So there it is. You're going to take it up the nose twice. Fully vaccinated, but you're going to need to take a test before you leave your country, and you're going to need to take a test on the 3rd day after you land in the Philippines. And it says right here, if without a negative pre-departure test, you shall undergo a quarantine on the 5th to the 5th day.
On the other hand, fully vaccinated individuals from yellow list nations without a negative pre-departure test shall be required to undergo facility-based quarantine with a 5th day RT-PCR test, with the date of arrival considered the 1st day.
So if you didn't get your swab test and you had a negative test before you left your country, you're going to have to do the 5-day, and that means that they're going to put you in you're going to have a quarantine hotel pre-booked, and you're going to be tested on the 5th day, and you're probably going to get your results most likely on the 6th day. So once again, you need to book for 6 days, and very important to get that test before you leave. Very important, because if not, you're spending more money on hotels, you're trapped inside longer before you get your freedom and all. Very important, if you're going to be flying, get that test beforehand. Melinda and I, we got to find where we can get that done right before we leave, and we're leaving right around the holiday time, so yeah, fun.
Upon the release of a negative RT-PCR test, they may be discharged from facility quarantine, after which they shall be required to undergo home quarantine until the 10th day from date of arrival from a yellow list country.
And you see, that's the next little tricky little caveat of information right there. Then you have to do home quarantine, okay? Even if you were fully vaccinated, but you arrived without a pre-departure swab test, you're going to have to do the 5-day test. You're going to still have to go home and home quarantine. It doesn't say self-monitor. The others say self-monitor, means you just watch and report if you've got any kind of symptoms coming up. But on this, you're going to have to undergo a 10-day to the 10th day of home quarantine. So pretty important, again, to get that test before you leave your country, green or yellow.
Individuals who are unvaccinated, partially vaccinated, or whose vaccination status cannot be independently validated are to undergo facility-based quarantine with an RT-PCR test done on the 7th day, with date of arrival being the 1st day. So 7th day, no? Upon the release of a negative RT-PCR test, individuals shall be required to undergo home quarantine until the 14th day from date of arrival.
So if you show up with your CDC card and they say it's not accepted, you're considered the same as unvaccinated, okay? For unvaccinated, partially vaccinated individuals whose vaccination status cannot be independently verified, and they may not consider your CDC card as independently verifiable, you are going to be treated the same as unvaccinated, and you're going to be going through 7 days. Yep, 7 days. And then you're going to have to do the home quarantine until the 14th day. You're going to get the full works, okay? So if you've been vaccinated and you think you're all good to go and you show up there without the proper proof of your vaccination, the Philippine government will accept. You're going to do 7 days in a quarantine hotel before they test you. You're going to need to be booked for 8 days, and then you're still going to have to go home and home quarantine till the 14th day.
Testing and quarantine protocols of minors shall follow. Ito, importante to. Ulitin natin. Testing and quarantine protocols of minors shall follow the testing and quarantine protocols of the parent or guardian they are traveling with, regardless of the minor's vaccination status and country of origin.
So I hope I have this right on that part right there about the children. So if I have it right, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if the parents are fully vaccinated and the child's not fully vaccinated, the child's going to be treated by the same standards as the parents or whatever their current status is. So the children will get, just right now, they'll get a follow along. So if I had that right, the child does not have to be fully vaccinated and all. The child's going to come along and follow whatever the parents have. The parents have to do a 3-day, the child's going to do a 3-day. The parents have to do a 5-day, the child's going to do a 5-day. Parents have to do a 10-day, child's going to do a 10-day. And if you have to do the 14, the child's going to do the 14. I believe that's the way that is stated.
But before the questions of Yusek Rocky, I'd just like to clarify specific to the CNN's breaking news post on allowing entry of fully vaccinated tourists from green list countries beginning November 22. Yung date po na November 22, that refers po to the effectivity ng rules on interim testing and quarantine protocols nun sa sinasabi kong green, yellow at red list. Yung opening to tourist, wala pa po tayong set date dyan kasi meron po tayong fina-finalize konti na lamang dun sa guidelines for tourists coming from green list. So yung date po na November 22, hindi pa po yan final for tourists coming from green list countries. That is something that konting adjustment, konting finalization na lamang ng guidelines namin for tourists coming from green list at ilalabas po ng IATF yung guidelines na yan. And we will announce the dates immediately.
We don't know what immediately is though. When they say immediately, just have a little joke here. You know, it's like if you tell a Filipino that's going to come do some service work or something for your repair work, hey, be at my house at 8 a.m. Okay, sir. Don't count on them being there at 8 a.m. That time's very loose. That might mean 12 or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, you know. Or if you say come that morning and you're expecting they're going to be there at 7 or 8, morning could be 11:59. Just humor. Filipinos don't get offended out there, nothing. You all know what I'm talking about. It's all worth a good laugh. Yeah, so when they say right here that it's going to be announced soon, yeah, how soon or immediately? What's immediately? Those scales are not always weighed the same between nations, different cultures. It's pretty cool because Filipinos, the Filipinos definitely know how to relax and enjoy life a lot better than most of us wound-tight Westerners.
Maraming salamat po. Ingat po lagi. God bless.